Dear shareholders, a warm welcome to AGM 2026 presentation. For me, technology has never been about technology for technology's own sake. It has always been for the value it creates. It is with a great humility and also great enthusiasm I'm standing here today. I grew up in a small town of Åmål in an entrepreneurial family, and I was 7 years old when I drew the logotype to that company for the first time. And at that kitchen table, I learned a lesson early on that has followed me throughout my career. And that is that walls come down and new opportunities arise by the same two things: teamwork and curious perseverance. But also that it takes flexibility, focus, and fresh thinking in order to break status quo and advance forward where it matters. I'm deeply grateful for that lesson, and I bring it with me also into this new role. I had the privilege of working in and leading businesses in several successful groups, Colmorgan and Volvo Group most recently. Different industries, and different context, but one and the same common thread: making the world a slightly better place. Safer, smarter, more efficient, and more human. I deeply believe in that vision. It is what makes our work especially meaningful. And it is the same driving force that has brought me here to Terranet. Terranet's vision of saving the lives of vulnerable road users by technology that sees faster than we ourselves can react is something that moves me deeply. Bringing our loved ones home. That message has been part of BlincVision's purpose from the very start, and it is something that truly resonates with me. What also fascinates me with BlincVision is that technology has potential far beyond any single use case. And this matters, because if there is one other thing I learned around that kitchen table in Åmål, then it is that technology must never exist for technology's own sake, but for the value it creates. Customer value, business value, societal value. And we don't build that value overnight, and we don't build it on our own. We build it together. Technology does not build successful companies, at least not yet. People do. To succeed, I believe in teamwork. That is something that matters a great deal to me, and anyone that has ever worked with me can testify to that. I believe in environments where people strive together, learn along the way, are humble for what we don't know yet, but also the conviction of using that curious perseverance in order to find ways forward. Strive, humble, learn, teamwork. For me, those are not just words. They are the foundation for high-performing teams and lasting results. It is also why I have great respect for the work already done at Terranet. There is real competence here, real drive, and a technology with significant potential. My task now is to take the next steps together with you, to go from evaluation to commercialization, to go from technology to real societal benefit. And what matters most to me is that we work as one team with a shared direction and a common goal. More information about me as a person is available on LinkedIn together with my formal CV. I'm joining this company at a very exciting phase. From technology and potential to practical application, market presence, and commercialization. We start right away by changing our company name to BlincVision. On June 9th, we will have an extraordinary general meeting to decide on the name change. We are now getting a name that better reflects our development, our technology, and our path forward. The core of BlincVision is something very simple: detecting what matters faster, with less data to process and more time to react. It is precisely that combination that makes BlincVision so compelling across several different verticals. And with that, I now hand over to our CTO, Pierre Ekwall.
Thank you, Marcus. So I will be talking about the technology, the evaluation process, and the results from the evaluations to date. But to start off, there might be some new shareholders with us here today. So I'll start off with explaining a little bit about the system basics on how BlincVision works. So in the front of the vehicle, you have a laser scanner. The laser scanner emits light into the scene while it's scanning. That light is then reflected on the objects in the scene back to our 2 event cameras. And why we use 2 event cameras is to be able to perceive things in stereo, and that means we're able to assess depth and distance to the objects that we see in the scene, much like the human eyes. This data is then processed into a point cloud, and the point cloud is what we then deliver to the customer through Ethernet. This point cloud can also be used by Terranet and our own applications to be able to assist in doing automatic braking. For example, in a situation where a pedestrian steps into the street and where you have no time to react, and the only thing helping you there is the system with extreme low latency, as BlincVision has. If we move back in time a little bit, already in 2024, we did our first evaluations, internal evaluations of the BlincVision system. And by the end of 2024, we also did assessments together with external partners of the performance of the system. This then led to the design changes towards what we today call the BlincVision MVP system. The design work, based on all that feedback I talked about from 2024, started in Q1 2025 with the design of the MVP. In Q2, we did the build and the testing of the system, and we also launched the system officially for the market. In Q3, we had our first MVP evaluations together with partners. And Q4, we had additional evaluation agreements signed with even more partners that we're now evaluating with. In Q4, we also had, in the end of Q4, we also had a couple of patent approvals, very important for Terranet, since we're now entering a situation where we will have a lot of dialogue with many different partners, sharing a lot of quite sensitive information on how our system actually works. It's very important to be protected on an IP level. And last but not least, we also, of course, set the roadmap for 2026, which Marcus will be talking about a little bit more later down the line. And moving back to BlincVision MVP and the evaluations that we're doing right now. There's been many questions from the shareholders on the evaluation process and how it looks, how it works. And I hope with these slides that you will have better insight in what we're actually doing. First of all, as in any business development, it always starts with client engagement, right? So customer meetings is the first step. We do that through fairs, exhibitions. We do it by joining different partner programs for different verticals. And of course, we also do it by targeted reach out to the customers that we find of specific interest. Next in line is prioritization. Sadly, or I would say maybe happily, there is so much interest in our product and our technology that we have more interested clients than we have resources, both in terms of heads and amount of MVP systems available. So prioritization becomes very important. First factor in the prioritization is, of course, the business side of things. So what's the business value of the engagement? We then look at the technology. Does the technology we can offer today in the MVP match the requirements of the customer? There's always a need of slight adjustments, but we try to minimize the cases where we need to do a lot of adjustment to be able to do more evaluations in a shorter time frame. So that's just some of the prioritization background we need to do. Next step is, of course, the evaluation itself. And even before the evaluation starts, there's usually quite a lot of questions from the customers on technical questions, performance questions that they want to sort out even before we start the evaluations. So it usually starts with a lot of investigations from our side, from Terranet side. Then we go to the evaluation, and after we've done the evaluation on site at the customers, there's usually, of course, a lot of data processing that needs to be done in the post-evaluation phase. This data is processed, and with that, a couple of new questions pops up that leads to investigations and sometimes also adaptation requirements from the customer, where they want to adapt to a specific use case or a certain environment. And this actually creates a business opportunity for us already there, that even before moving forward with the customer, there's an opportunity to charge for these adaptations once they become specific enough by getting basically NRE from the client for that adaptation. And this then leads us to the final step, the contract, the final contract. And moving over to the insights from the evaluations, we've gotten a lot of feedback on how easy the system is to use. Usually the clients are up and running within 2 to 3 hours, and most of that part is actually just the mechanical integration into their vehicles. So good reviews there. Also getting good feedback on the HMI and user interface of the system. Easy to understand. On a readiness level side of things, we are getting very good feedback on the readiness of the system. Actually, to date, we have not had any evaluations that have needed to be cancelled due to technical reasons. Everything is working as it should. Also, we get good feedback on on the design of the system, where everything is integrated that's needed for evaluation, and the design itself is soothing to the eyes. Adaptations for niche use cases is something we have realized that we need to do, maybe at an even higher extent than we initially thought. And this is just a lessons learned for us. At some cases, some customers will require higher level of adaptations compared to others. We also noticed that the requirement on the perception model differs quite a lot between different customers. Some customers are focusing more on the sensor technology. They do their own sensor fusion or their own data processing, so they only want the low latency data in our point cloud. But then we have other clients who are more focused on the final application and who wants us at Terranet to support also the application development and have higher requirements on what the end result on a system level actually should be. And this is something we bring with us and that we need to think about as part of our offer. Performance-wise, we're getting feedback on the ultra-low latency, and that impresses a lot of clients. To date, I've not heard one client say that they have tested a system that's faster than ours. So that's very good, since that's our unique selling point. We also do it together with data quality that's of good quality, which is, of course, also important. And last but not least, the environmental robustness is something we've noticed is a high priority for many of our clients. It doesn't matter how low latency you have if you can't have it all the time. So that's what the clients really need. And that means we need a system that can work with low standing sun, for example, where camera systems have problems today. We need a system that can have good weather robustness. And we need a system that can cope with vibrations in a good way. So high vibration environments are very common in the mining industry, military, for example, and be able to give the customer low latency also in those environments is very important. So, but what have we learned so far? Yeah, so I would say we've reached what I call NRE relevant readiness level. And that means we are now at a stage where we can start for some customers to charge for adaptations of the system. And that's an important milestone, I would say, on our readiness level for Terranet. Also, we have gotten a lot of insights from real-world customer pain points. We have seen their actual problems. We have seen their environments. We know how they operate. We know what competing systems they use today that they're not happy with, and we know why. And that's very important for our business development going forward, knowing the problems we're actually solving. We have not only Scandinavian and European traction, we have international traction now, much due to the PR we are doing and also all the reach out we've done and the fairs we have visited, all the client engagement, the evaluations. That's giving us international traction, and it's also giving us a continuous increasing interest from the market, which for a company like us is, of course, extremely important. So very good progress. And we're just getting started. Over to you, Marcus.
Thank you, Pierre. As you can hear, there is great interest in BlincVision also beyond automotive. We started within automotive, and it continues to be an important vertical for us. But as we have met new players, conducted more evaluations in different environments, we have understood that this technology has potential far beyond any single use case. This is also clearly visible in our roadmap for 2026. As we have previously been communicated, we are now focusing on continued market presence and partner development. Business development is taking place both within automotive as well as within alternative use cases, and we continue to strengthen our IP and patent protection. The goal remains to reach commercial agreement with revenue for 2026. This is just the beginning of the next chapter for BlincVision. The road ahead will not be a straight line. There will be setbacks. There will be lessons along the way. But if we keep learning as we go, play as one team, we have the courage to think anew where it is needed, as well as the perseverance to stand firm when the wind picks up, then I believe that what we can achieve together is truly remarkable, and that we really can make this world a slightly better place. Thank you for your trust. Now, let's continue to move forward.